Hey, thanks for joining me in the studio. I'm Dave Kirkpatrick, and this is, well, it's not really November and beyond. This is just live studio production day. Hey, I have something sort of important for you, but let me just explain it. I was going to just point the camera out the window, start a stream just for fun, check the stream, play a whole bunch of clips for you, but I sort of got this urgent thing I'd like to hit you with before all of this starts and probably again after. So I was going to have a casual play day, but I have some important and urgent information for you. And this concerns reproductive freedom laws and bills, bills that are going to be voted on tomorrow in the House of Representatives here in New Hampshire that will really affect so many people. So these are going to be voted on tomorrow. The discussion is over. The chance for you to sign in on a bill is over. What you can still do is talk to your representatives. Your representatives should be representing you. We know overwhelmingly there is support for these bills in New Hampshire, and they're not doing their job. I think they need to be reminded of who puts them in office and what happens if they fail to make the voters happy. So here's the deal. I have a PSA here. I'm going to read some of it. This isn't the PSA, but here's the info you need to know. Maybe somebody smart will chime in. Maybe somebody will put comments underneath. Oh, hell, maybe if you're one of these activists who, I don't know, browse this sort of thing, maybe you're going to share this or tell somebody else or do something useful with this information. Let's give it a whack here. I'm going to try to squeak out a PSA for this. I'm going to come back and tell you the same darn thing at the end because that's just what we do. So, hi, my name is Dave. Dave. Oh, I should put my info up. This will be good. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's just put the old lower up there so you can get in touch with me if you need to. Send me love mail, send me hate mail, come on the show, send me your input, send me your clips, send me your media, like we can do some fun stuff together. There's all my junk right here on the screen. So I'm Dave. I'm asking you for help today in an extremely important matter on Friday. That's tomorrow, Friday. The Judiciary Committee, that's the New Hampshire State House, the Judiciary Committee in Concord, are going to vote on 6 pieces of legislation that are going to affect reproductive rights in New Hampshire. And we urgently urge you to reach out to committee members to inform them of your feelings on this and to urge them to vote with the people of New Hampshire on this. So I know there are 4 pretty negative bills trying to restrict reproductive freedom and especially poor people's access to health care. So there are 4 negative bills. I don't have their numbers handy. Urge them to vote against them. You can do a little research here. Maybe somebody will stick it in the comments. I'll have it at my fingertips. I'll add this stuff to the later piece. But there are a couple of really, really good bills out there. Amanda Elizabeth Toll put, I think these are all hers, if I'm not mistaken. I very well could be. But one of these is a constitutional amendment, in fact, and then 2 more are bills that will advance and secure the rights, reproductive freedom, access to health care, women's rights, however you want to phrase any of that stuff. These are very, very helpful bills that will protect people against any of these other little things that are going to come in and try to chip away at our rights and freedoms. So CACR 18, that's the constitutional amendment, CACR 18. Urge them to vote in favor of that. That is a constitutional amendment that would protect our rights here in New Hampshire. HB 1743, HB 1743 and HB, well, that's the same number twice in my notes. So there's a couple of other bills that you should be supporting. And, you need to do a little bit of research. Again, put it down below. If you have this information, I'll put it in there later. Call your reps, urge them to do the will of the people. Urge them to represent the voters, the people of New Hampshire, not their Free State buddies, not their corporate buddies, not the GOP all walking lockstep to make every lib cry anytime they can. Get these people to do the right thing. Give them a call. That's the only thing you can do, and you can only do it right now. They're voting tomorrow. So, I don't know. If any of that hits home, go right ahead and do it. Blah, blah, blah. Express your support. Some information for me to fill in. And then email them. So once you've emailed it, share this video, share this information with your friends. That is one of the things that just drives me buggy up the wall is I will shoot a thing and I'll have a dozen people who are at the event like my video, and I'll see no shares whatsoever, and it makes me wonder why I sit here in front of the camera or why I go to the rallies at all. So do that stuff if you can, if you would. That would be fantastic. That was a sloppy presentation. It wasn't meant to be a presentation, but you know, we can just have all of our fun here all at once. So here's what I'm really supposed to be doing today. I was going to shoot that should have been the camera out the window, but instead you got me. I have a clip from a friend and colleague, Michelle Chalice, is doing a presentation at the Keene Public Library on Saturday. It is Healthy Home Habitats, and it's about creating a sustainable backyard, doing the right thing. All of us doing a little bit of the right thing to help the planet move along, help the birds and bees get what they need, stop running those silly lawnmowers all over the place. As one of my friends likes to tell me, lose the imperial lawn. What a great idea. So Saturday, 10 a.m. at the Keene Public Library, and it's also virtual. Michelle and I talked about this. She'll be back with a clip. We'll be back with a clip in a few minutes. I'll run the PSA as well, but don't forget that's coming right up. And I think I'm also just going to replay the reproductive rights piece that was a November and Beyond program a few days ago. I'm probably going to run that all day long. Why don't I? Because again, this stuff is about today, right now, today. So we'll get right after that. The final piece that I'm going to do today, if time allows, is I want to get to the oh, help me here, Climate Strike folks who do their thing in Jaffrey, Fridays for Future. And I shot a great piece with them. That was one of the first things I did in this studio. We shot that using all the various rooms, all isolated and, you know, COVID-free and all that good stuff. It's one of the things that we do here. So I'm really hoping to get that program off the ground too. The reason I haven't is because I really wanted to dress it up nicer, but every day sort of turns into a little bit of this. So anyways, here you go. I'm going to first play, I think it's the full November and Beyond, with Renee Montiel, and Jody Newell and Amanda Elizabeth Toll. They came in the studio, sat, and did a full show. It was really good. Explains all this stuff in great detail. Some of the stuff you'll hear right now is gone out the window. The time to sign in is over. What the time for, once again, I'll remind you that it is time, write these reps, call them. Actually, calls mean a lot to them. I've had city councilors here in Keene say, yeah, we get some emails, we flip past those, but if they have to talk to one of their constituents, that's a big deal to them. If they talk to three people about an issue that's coming up in Keene, they're like, the voters are upset. So seriously, call those folks. If you got it in you, please. I don't have the number. Here you go. Watch the show. With a little luck, I'll be back in a half an hour to do a better version of what I just did and introduce something even just as interesting to watch. So fingers crossed, off we go. Hey friends, it is me, live from the studio here, live from Keene, and I'm just going to kick out a real quick show. Don't do much of this here and haven't done all my homework, but I had some folks in the studio the other night. We have some important stuff to get out. We're just going to wing it. We're going to get stuff out fast and fast. There's a visibility coming up in Keene in an hour, 4 o'clock. Today is Wednesday, so if you can get yourselves down there, maybe we're getting some timely stuff out. There's also some stuff going on in the State House that is happening today and tomorrow, and if we'll do a very concise summary
about that.
Without further ado, let's see if I can get this thing moving, and I may come back to say ta-ta. Don't forget, today, 4 o'clock, Central Square in Keene, there's something going on, visibility event anyways. Honk and wave if you're passing by, and I hope to see you there.
Hi everyone, my name is Representative Amanda Elizabeth Toll, and I represent Keene at Large in the New Hampshire State House, and I am here today with my friends and my colleagues, Renee Montiel and Jody Newell, and both of them serve on the Keene Democrats with me, and additionally the Cheshire Democrats has a reproductive rights subcommittee, and we work on that together. We're here today because we want to talk about the attacks on bodily autonomy happening in the New Hampshire State House, and we also want to share our personal stories to give a human face to the abortion issue. All three of us are abortion storytellers, and so you'll be hearing a little bit from each of us tonight about that. As we do our work, we want to really emphasize that the feminist slogan, that the political is the personal, and what goes on in Concord has real impacts on Granite Staters' lives. So I'm going to begin by giving an overview of the bills that are going to be coming up this week, because we need people to weigh in to help defend reproductive freedom. So on Wednesday, we have 3 bills coming up that really threaten abortion access in the state of New Hampshire. So on Wednesday, February 9th, we're encouraging people to go to the either the State House to testify in opposition to, or you can sign in on the New Hampshire General Court website in opposition to the following bills. So at 9 a.m., HB 1181, which would allow the biological father of an unborn child to petition the court for an injunction prohibiting the biological mother from having an abortion. Obviously very scary. At 10, HB 1477, prohibiting abortions after the detection of a fetal heartbeat. At 1 p.m., HB 1625, repealing the prohibition on entering or remaining on a public way or sidewalk adjacent to a reproductive health care facility. Obviously, we don't want people being harassed directly in their faces as they enter a reproductive health clinic. And so we oppose all of those bills being heard on the 9th. And again, I'll repeat the numbers. It's HB 1181, HB 1477, and HB 1625. On Thursday, February 10th, we have some good bills coming to protect bodily autonomy, and we encourage folks to sign in support of these bills, or come to the State House and testify in person in support of these bills. At 9 a.m., we're going to hear CACR 18. I'm actually the prime sponsor of that bill, and that provides that the state shall not infringe or unduly inconvenience the right of reproductive medical decisions, and that would add reproductive rights to the New Hampshire State Constitution. At 10 a.m., is going to be HB 1673, relative to women's health privacy and repealing the Fetal Health Protection Act. So this is a repeal of New Hampshire's abortion ban and mandatory ultrasound requirement, which of course is just in place to shame people who are exercising their reproductive choice, to force them to undergo a mandatory ultrasound. So we want that in the New Hampshire abortion ban repealed. So that's what HB 1673 does. And the final one at 1 p.m. is HB 1674, which is relative to reproductive rights. It's the Access to Abortion Care Act. And that would add protections to make sure that there's no further restrictions on abortion in the state of New Hampshire. And so again, we want people to sign in support of the Thursday bills or testify in support. CACR 18, HB 1673, and HB 1674. And so now that you know what's coming up in the New Hampshire State House, both these terrible bills to harm reproductive rights, and I just forgot to give a little background, so I want to do that for a moment before we go into our personal stories, is that this past legislative session, we had a budget that put into statute an abortion ban on abortions later in pregnancy, which is something that is deeply personal to people and should be absolutely decided between providers and their patients. The state should never be interfering with that. It can only do harm when the state interferes with people's rights to have bodily autonomy. And so that happened already. And also the Republican legislature in the budget put this mandatory ultrasound requirement into statute, making it so everyone, no matter where they were in pregnancy, would be required to undergo this invasive medically oftentimes unnecessary procedure in order to have an abortion. And we know nowadays with medical abortion, for example, that isn't always necessary. And so that, again, should be decided between patients and their providers, not Republicans in the New Hampshire legislature. And so with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Renee Montiel, who is Keene's, to my knowledge, only full spectrum doula, meaning that she provides care to women when they're, or birthing people, when they are expecting and they need a birth doula, or postpartum care, or when they need an abortion. So Renee is doing all three of those things. And so she has some unique perspectives on reproductive health care. And also Renee, my friend and fellow activist, has had an abortion and is also a mother of 2 children. So I'm going to turn it over to Renee to talk about her story, how this work has impacted the combination of your work and your personal story has impacted your views on reproductive justice and how you feel about the current legislation that's happening in New Hampshire. So take it away, Renee.
Yes, well, I had an abortion when my first child was 1. Circumstances led me to make that decision as a mother, and I think that's one of the things that we need to be very cognizant of is the majority of people that are deciding to have abortions are already mothers. They have families. And that's huge. Because what does that tell us? That tells us that people are trying to make the best decisions for their families, not just for themselves, but for their families. You know, one of the things that I've had to do a number of times is walk people into the clinic. And we're lucky here in Keene, as usually there's only 2 people standing outside. It's very small. And I have sat in the room with women holding their hands and listening to them cry and tell me their stories. And it's really heartbreaking. Some of these women are escaping dangerous abusive partners, you know, barely making it out alive. The stories that I've heard are just horrifying. And the last thing anybody needs to do is to take away women's freedom to be able to make the best decisions for their families. These bans don't just hurt us as women. They hurt our children, they hurt our families, and ultimately they hurt our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree full-heartedly. And we know that people from all walks of life, all religions,
Yes.
all races, even all genders, like we are being called upon to, you know, we know trans folks need this care too sometimes. And so like that this can impact all people
Yes,
with a
it does.
uterus. It can
Absolutely.
affect their families, and as you were saying, it can impact their communities. Because
It
if
does.
we don't have control over our reproduction, we really don't have control over our lives.
No. And I feel that when it comes down to these bans, that ultimately it's violent. It's a violent act against people's bodily autonomy. And when we're trying to support our families, I know people that are struggling to feed their children in a climate right now where we are having the cost of living is rising exponentially. We are having problems, you know, feeding people and housing people, and then to deny them, you know, this thing that could help them focus on raising the family that they already have. This is a violent act against our communities, and we need to really see it that way. And, you know, that's what I want to do. I want to bring attention to the fact that this is huge. This isn't just about us personally. This is about, it's a family issue, not just a personal issue.
I agree with you full-heartedly, Renee. Really well said. And I think it's so important to emphasize that the same people who are attacking our reproductive rights, especially the right to have an abortion, they're also the ones who want to cut social services. Like us as reproductive rights activists, I know Jody, Renee, myself, and we all share a belief that people both have the right not to have children and an abortion justice, but also that people have the right to have children. And when they do have children, have the resources that they need to raise them well. And so while the Republicans are cutting off abortion access, they're simultaneously making it harder and harder to take care of your family.
And it's just going to sink women, especially, people that are single moms, right? Who, like myself, sink us into further poverty of trying to support our families. And how is that going to be beneficial to anyone, not just in our communities, statewide, countrywide?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Jody, everyone, I'm so excited to have Jody here, like another, not just a colleague, but truly a friend. Would you want to tell us a little bit about your story and how it impacts your feelings about what's going on in the New Hampshire legislature and your activism and feelings about reproductive justice?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to kind of pick up where Renee left off in the conversation between y'all is it's interesting how there's shame on either end, right? So it's like shame, what we're talking about, one of these bills in here, we're talking about repealing it's essentially a buffer zone around, where someone would need to go for an abortion. And, taking that away. But what is that really to have people, stand out front of an abortion clinic? I mean, I remember when I needed to go for an abortion, I had 2 little kids. I was a single mom. I was not in a place where I could do that. And if I made the decision to have another child, I would be taking away from my existing children. I would be throwing my entire family into a bad situation. So I had to go, and I went in Boston to the whatever it is, there, Planned Parenthood there. And I remember having to walk past this man. So here's this decision that I had to make. Not only that, I mean, I grew up going to the March for Life with my mom. I came from a family where this was something that was, that was really, really looked down on. It was looked on as if it was murder. And so I was brought up in that situation, and I had to go through this whole kind of process of, making that decision with that baggage and all of that stuff. And so to come to the decision that, yes, no, this really is what I need to do for my family, for myself and my family. And then, to be walking in and to be essentially accosted by someone who's telling me that what I'm doing is murder and it's immoral. I've made the decision, trust me. It took me a lot to get to that point, and I really did think it through. I looked into it, found out everything, and made that decision, a very informed and a very personal decision. And then to go there, and that's essentially, like I'm saying, that's the shame that's inflicted on you. That all of these laws seem to, that's what it wants to do. That's what it aims to do, is to shame a woman who makes that decision, shame someone who makes that decision. And so, and then on the other end of it, then you need to, if you need to rely on social services, then you're shamed in that respect. We have this welfare queen mentality. So to me, it's this, it's like you can't ever satisfy. It's these things that put you in a situation where you can't win, whether you do or you don't. But whether you do or you don't has nothing to do with anyone else. It is a very personal decision to make. And so, that's why I come to this.
Thank you so much, Jody. Like, such a powerful story, and we're so grateful for you sharing and for your continued advocacy in our community. Really, genuinely, just could not be more grateful to be working alongside you folks. And we are just, the 3 of us, I know, feel really strongly that we are going to continue to go to bat for Granite Staters by advocating that all people, regardless of race, class, gender, sexual orientation, have the right to not have children. And when they do have children, have the resources and support to do so. And we ask you to please join us in this fight. We need your voice. We need your activism. Get involved with the Keene Dems. Get involved with the Cheshire Dems. If you're outside of those areas, get involved in your local community's reproductive rights activism. And if you are here in New Hampshire, once again, we ask you on Wednesday, the 9th, to be signing in on the New Hampshire General Court website if you can't testify in person in opposition to the 3 anti-choice bills that will be coming up before the Judiciary Committee. Once again, they're HB 1181, HB 1477, and HB 1625. And on Thursday, to please join in support on the New Hampshire General Court website, signing in to support CACR 18, HB 1673, HB 1674. All 3 of those bills on Thursday are going to help protect and expand access to reproductive health care in our state. Thanks again so very much for joining us tonight. We look forward to continuing to do more of these segments, letting you know what's going on in our state. Thank you, Renee, and thank you, Jody. Have a good night, everyone.
And there you go. Some very interesting stories, some very personal stories, and a lot of information for folks who want to help out in this. And what I'm going to do is actually just play right now. I'm going to play the repackaged, the PSA version of this, where they'll talk about the bills, the bill numbers, and how you can get involved. And you can actually go online and send your input to Concord, whether you support or oppose a bill, and send your comments and testimony as well. So that's some pretty good stuff. Let me switch that up. I've only dropped the ball once. We'll see if I can do it without dropping the ball again. Take a look at this, and then what I'm going to do after this is just fill up the rest of a half an hour to make a half an hour show. There's a little bit of value to kicking out a half an hour show every week. We want stuff to get heard and seen. One good way to do that is to put things on public access. Keene, so sorry, not for you, but there are public access stations everywhere. A steady, standalone half-hour show is something that people will play, so you can be seen in Keene, you can be seen in Concord and Manchester and Nashua, and you can get the word out. So the regular show is a goal. We're going to kick it out live with a little bit of luck. And like I said, I will see you next time and maybe do something a little bit nicer right out of the studio. So enjoy the rest of the show.
Hello, everyone. My name is Representative Amanda Elizabeth Toll, and I'm here with my friends and fellow reproductive justice activists, Renee Montiel and Jody Newell. We are here to tell you that this week is going to be a big week for reproductive justice in the New Hampshire House of Representatives. On Wednesday, the 9th, we are asking folks to sign in opposition to the following.
All right, maybe I should have left that rolling. So they're about to get to some bill numbers and that sort of thing. But if you are watching, that stuff's all bunk. You can't do any of the things that they were just talking about. The only thing you could do right now today is write or call your representative to urge them to vote with the people of New Hampshire. The people of New Hampshire overwhelmingly support reproductive freedom. The people of New Hampshire overwhelmingly support women's rights. And access to health care. That's what this is all about, access to basic health care. So you cannot sign in on these bills right now. You can't go sit in support. All you can do is write your rep because they're going to vote on it tomorrow. Tomorrow being Friday, they're going to vote on it tomorrow. All you can do is write or call them. If there were some info available, I'll see if I can get to some numbers. But here's what we're doing. We're flopping around at the very last minute, and they're all going to vote. I believe it's an 11 to 10. Where we're going to lose this because people just don't call and these people don't do what the representatives want. And people keep on checking those boxes right down the red side, thinking they're voting for Republicans, but they're voting for the Free Staters that are the hatchet men for the Republicans. They will be discarded as soon as they're done wrecking crap in New Hampshire. The Republicans don't love the Free Staters, but they love what they're doing right now. So that's kind of an unholy alliance. Let's vote these people out in November. Let's just do it. Get them out. Anyway, all right. So I'm really on a roll here. I wasn't supposed to be talking. I was supposed to be putting fluff up here. I'm still going to try to put together a decent PSA for what you actually should do. Maybe by the end of the day, we'll see. I need some research people to tell me who to call, because I can't tell you to call unless somebody tells me who to tell you to call. Anyway, so let's just jump over. I have another clip here, and what are we even going to do? I'm going to for you play. I'm working like Yoda these days. I have a clip that is, we have an event coming up at the Keene Public Library. Michelle Chalice is a friend and a colleague. Her organization is Healthy Home Habitats. And this presentation is about things you can do in your backyard to lose the imperial lawn, to make a more sustainable environment, have a lower carbon footprint, protect the environment, protect our pollinators, all the good things. So she's got a presentation at the library. I'm going to help her out. It's kind of one of my first cool Iron Horse gigs. I'm going to give her like decent front end video for a Zoom meeting. Can you imagine that? A Zoom meeting that doesn't look like. So I had her in the studio the other day. We will hop right onto it right now because one of my guys is going to keep talking. We'll see if I can get this one done, and I'll be right back with you in a few minutes. And welcome back, everyone. I am indeed here in the studio, in the foyer, as it were. And today I am back here with Michelle Chalice. Michelle has you have a thing coming up at the Keene Public Library for your business, right?
I do.
But we want to talk about the event, but I also want to find out what actually what is it that you do? So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. Well, my name is Michelle Chalice, and I have a company called Healthy Home Habitats, and I help people design and create home landscapes that are healthier, that are more efficient, and that are more ecologically friendly. So I do that here in the Monadnock region, and it's wonderful.
Nice. So when you say landscapes, are you talking about landscaping for people's homes?
Home landscapes, yes, just residential. My dream is to have more people have their hands in the soil, but in general, people have very particular goals. They'd like to be spending less time doing the work of maintaining a landscape, and there are ways to do that that are also ecologically healthy. So it's a great way to have conversations and go through design processes to see what types of aesthetics people really appreciate having at their own home to represent themselves in a neighborhood.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've been the subject of some of these discussions. I've been told to lose the imperial lawn. I'm on about an acre.
Oh my
and,
goodness.
It's mostly lawn, and
Yeah.
I've people have said, stop doing that, Dave. And so I would be a candidate for something more manageable, something better.
Yeah. Well, there are lots of options. There are quite a few options.
Interesting. And who tends to be the client for such a thing? Is this for anybody, or are these bigger spaces, or who's more interested in this?
It's interesting, David. It is actually anyone. I have dealt with families who are looking for smaller projects that they can do with their children to grow food at home, because not everybody has the time to manage a huge garden down on the ground.
Right.
I get to work with a lot of retired professionals who have more time on their hands and would like to have a type of landscape at home that they can feel better about. They understand our context in the world right now and the ecological challenges that we face, and they have a little bit of time to be able to say, hey, let's create something that feels better. And then there are also the new homeowners who are just coming to our region, who have just bought a home in the Monadnock region and are like, what do I have here? Tell me about this.
Things we can do with this.
Yeah, and tell me what's possible. What's reasonable, and how can I have this use less resources, take less time, be more ecologically diverse, and be able to feel better about it. Understand that they can be doing things every day that help our environment as well as their own personal life, and most importantly, the health of themselves and their family.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that you're doing something every day simply by maintaining an environment for the birds and the bees. You don't have to be there for the whole thing. that's
But you are
simply
making
an
choices.
ongoing. Yeah, it's an ongoing benefit to to our natural world. That's a neat thing.
Right.
And for me, some of it is time management too. It takes a long time to mow a lawn.
yeah.
I'm consumed by the fact that every house has a little shed with a lawnmower in it. Every house.
every
and we all
house.
use it for, a half an hour a week, but everybody's got to have one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Americans manage 40 million acres of personal property in the United States. And Northeastern homeowners have the largest average yards. So our yard is our one place where we get to choose how we manage our water, our soil, our plants. We manage our own natural resources within that space. And so it's an exciting way to think more specifically about, hey, wait a minute, do I want to be spending 2 hours every week doing that? What are my options?
Or pay the kid, or pay the guy. Like people spend, oh my goodness, a lot of money on space that they don't, nothing else happens to it, It's
Yep,
like,
yep,
You can
yep.
argue it's lovely, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be very interested in all of this, and I know you have an event coming up with the Keene Library, is that right?
Yes,
Can you tell
Keene
us
Public
about
Library is going to host the first of a 5-part series, the Monadnock Sustainable Yard series. And so they will host on February 19th at 10 a.m. at Heberton Hall, Create a Sustainable Yard. And this will be a public presentation, free. For anyone who's interested, they can show up at Heberton Hall to be in person, or they can attend by Zoom, as we often do nowadays.
Yeah.
To hear, in particular, 5 ways to have a more manageable home landscape, to save that time and money with water and resources and less pesticides and more ecological diversity. What does it mean to have a native plant in my property? Is there something that doesn't look like a weed, but that is helping the pollinators? What are the factors? So we'll be looking at 5 different aspects to be able to create a more sustainable yard.
It's really neat. Is there an aspect of food in there? We're lazy kitchen gardeners. We put a bunch of stuff outside the door, and we're not super diligent. A lot of stuff comes out of the garden, but
Right? So to be clear, I tend to work with people using vining vegetables. Because vining vegetables, peas in the spring, cucumbers in the summer, and pumpkins in the fall, they're a great way to have very discrete projects with children of plants that climb, that are much less maintenance intensive than things like tomatoes and even lettuce, and it's not a huge space on the ground. They're containers. And it's a great way for children to be able to watch from a plant go from a seed all the way to something that they can eat. And so for my purposes, we tend to focus on vining vegetables for healthy home habitats.
easy sounds good to me.
Right.
Getting the kids involved sounds good to me. It's
Yeah.
wonderful when we can teach some healthy living and feel good about that.
Absolutely, and the parents want to have a success, right?
Sure,
it's so
yeah.
easy to get excited in the spring and then realize midsummer that you've got this huge endeavor.
That's a hedge. That's us.
Right, to do, and so it's nice to set especially young families up with something that is reasonable and that they can manage and that everybody can be happy about and joyful about.
Neat. Well, I really look forward to it. Can you remind the folks again when to show up and where for the first part of the series?
Keene Public Library. I should say you definitely need to register at the Keene Public Library for February 19th, 10 a.m. Create a Sustainable Yard, and then you will have your choice whether you'd like to come in person to Heberton Hall. It's a nice big airy room, or to attend by Zoom.
Great. And I'm looking forward to it. Full disclosure, I'm going to do the cameras. I'm going to do the front end for that Zoom event and record that for you as well.
I'm looking
So,
forward to that.
this should be a lot of fun. So,
Absolutely.
well, thanks so much for joining me on a chunk of the show here. And I will invite you back shortly, I'm sure, but I'm going to see you between now and the event, and we'll hope this goes smoothly. And I appreciate you spending some time here today.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Great. You're welcome. And there you go. There's that event by Healthy Home Habitats at the Keene Public Library this Saturday. Oh boy, what day is it even? Saturday at 10 a.m. That's going to be a good thing. So I am, I explained it a little while ago. I'm just really running some stuff today. There's some information I'd like to get to you, but I'm pretty sure you're not watching now. I'm probably going to delete this by the time it's over. So I'm just going to play what's in the bin right now, and what I do have is a piece by the Fridays for Future, the climate strike that happens in Jaffrey and in other places. But there are some folks who put together this strike. We get out there in the mornings, Jaffrey, 8 a.m., hold signs and wave at traffic. It's a honk and wave, but it's touching on the global issues, and it's a very connected movement, and there's a lot of folks working on this piece I believe it was started by Greta Thunberg. Ultimately, I know there's a group in Hillsborough. There's a lot of folks doing similar things. So we're a small group in Jaffrey, but we're a large group across the world, I believe. So I'm going to play this clip, and then I'm going to ditch you. I'm going to go back to setting up a room. I have a live studio Zoom, a live hybrid call today. I'm going to make sure all that stuff goes well. So without further ado, here's the piece that we did the other day for Fridays for Future, and I'll see you maybe tomorrow. Hey friends, I am Dave Kirkpatrick. This is November and Beyond. We've been here before. This is a show, let's see, I haven't done this show in quite a while, and haven't done it from this new location either. I've got a new thing going on today. This is being taped in my new studio. It doesn't even have a name yet for that new. And so, we talk a lot about elections. We talk a lot about making the world a better place. And I bring guests on to hopefully amplify their voices and draw attention to their causes, and to bring people out to things, and to find the action items where people can actually help and contribute to making things better. So the folks who are joining us today, I have people from Fridays for Future, the climate strike that happens in Jaffrey, and they'll tell you more about it. But it is, of course, about saving the planet, about the climate crisis that we face. And we are, we like to think, about the things that we can fight, and the causes that matter to all people. I do, the people I work with, rights and democracy. We try to get away from these issues that are subsets of that keep us fighting, and work towards the things that we really ought to be together on, and we really ought to be pulling for as a team here. Healthcare, universal healthcare always comes up. Healthcare for all. Why would we all not want all of our friends and neighbors to be healthy? I can't imagine why. Fair wages and that sort of thing, living conditions, human rights, the things that we think we could all get together on that. The environment and the climate crisis is a huge one. And literally, we if we fix all the other stuff and don't fix this, the rest of it is going to be pointless. This is a pretty big deal. So we are going to talk to the folks from the Fridays for Future, and I'll bring them right now onto the show, and we'll see if we can get a conversation started. Welcome, friends. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Dave.
Why don't you folks introduce yourselves? Megan, maybe you start and tell us who you are and what brought you to Fridays for Future.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Wheeler, and I have lived in Jaffrey my entire life. I just graduated from Roanoke College this past May and have returned back to New Hampshire. Fridays for Future is a really important movement to me. For my entire life, I've always loved being outside, being in nature. I've always loved animals. Some of my favorite hobbies include swimming and being in the water. And, it's been something that's been just prominent my entire life. And it wasn't until this past year that I realized how much humans and our activity on Earth was hurting animals, causing species to go extinct, hurting our planet and our Earth. And it's kind of crazy that for the past 21 years, I never really saw how everything was connected. But then after realizing that everything is connected in different ways, whether it be with social justice and climate justice and racial justice, it's something that you just can't really forget. And honestly, at first, it's a little overwhelming because there's so much information that you want to learn about and so many things that you want to do. But this Fridays for Future group has been so great because it's kind of a group that has been really supportive and also really inspiring because each person has their own story and each person has the same values and morals, especially with caring about the planet. So it's been great to be able to get together on Friday mornings, spread our awareness about the climate, try and get that information out there, try and get more people talking about the climate change and taking climate action. And but also being able to talk with others, whether it be feeling more energetic and hopeful that week, or if you may be feeling more low that week, like people in our group always seem to pick you up and make you feel heard and also help you like make a difference in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And it really is nice. Actually, it is a pick me up for me too. It's early. Sometimes it's cold. It's, it's all those things, but yeah, it's a great bunch of people to get with. And how about you, Jerry? How did you discover these folks and join the club here?
I'm Jerry Burns. I just retired as a professor of English from Franklin Pierce University. And I guess kind of like Megan, the roots of my involvement here probably go pretty far back. I would say for me, it wasn't all of nature, but one aspect of nature, the weather. I was fascinated by the weather. And when I was a kid, I used to make up my own forecasts and follow the weather and get excited with big storms and that sort of thing. And so I think that's where I sort of come from. The idea that human beings were altering the weather as something that I followed carefully and kind of loved in a way. That was shocking to me, in the sense of, kind of like, wow, that just doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to begin to act on that in any way. I was involved in a documentary film that an institute at Franklin Pierce put together on climate change. We actually started thinking about the hurricane of '38 and its impact on local history. But we decided, let's try to see if we can understand the lessons of that natural disaster for the situation we're facing now. And sometime after that, I guess I finally came around to thinking that this is the one that I needed to be involved in. A lot of pressing problems, a lot of huge problems that need people to be involved and so on. But, this one has a ticking clock on it. There's just not that much time left. So decided I should probably step forward and do something a little more actively. So with a colleague from that earlier institute, I helped to found the Institute for Climate Action at Franklin Pierce, get that rolling, get that off the ground.
Nice. And is there an active group out there at Franklin Pierce? Is there?
Yeah, there is. The Institute for Climate Action is still going strong. We went through the pandemic. We stayed active. We had to do most things remotely, but we kept it going. Now I've retired, but my colleague Catherine Koning, who's actually on sabbatical, is still involved. And the Institute, which has joined students, faculty, and staff together, is still doing good work. We've had some successes on campus, set up a solar array on top of the field house. An EV charging station is going in, so there's been some
stuff going on there.
Good.
Good, excellent.
And we've reached out also. We have what we call a road show that has gone around to local groups with a presentation.
Yeah. So what has been the reaction, Megan, I guess from you perhaps? What are you hearing from people about what's been going on there and your involvement?
Been definitely a lot more positive reactions, I would say, than negative reactions, and also curious reactions, which I think is very important because at least with myself, it was one of my best friends, Maddie Springfield, who started this movement in Jaffrey. And she's been a lifelong friend of mine. And so she just reached out to me one day when she first wanted to get it started. And this is when I still didn't really know much about climate change, what was going on, and how our actions were having a role with changing the climate. But I just went out there with her. I believe my sister joined as well, just to support my friend. And from that moment, I just got hooked with wanting to talk about it more, learn about it more, and spread the information to all those around me. And so since then, like, especially with family members, they've asked a lot more questions. It's been something that they say they think a lot more about how their actions have an impact on the environment. And this was something that they never thought about before. And also with just, you run into someone at the grocery store and they might ask, oh, are you that girl who stands in the corner and stuff like that? And it's good because even if that's just how they recognize you, it starts that conversation, and it starts putting thoughts into their head about how their actions have an impact on the planet as well. And I think like Jerry was saying, it's some really depressing and scary topics, thinking about what will happen if we don't take action. But it's only going to get more scary and more overwhelming if we just keep brushing it aside and keep ignoring it. The only way to kind of make it less scary is to actually start talking about it and start acting on it. So I think just by standing out on the corner like we've gone, I feel a lot more honks, a lot more waves. You can see people who are going to school every morning because it's right at 8 a.m. So you have both kids who are going to the middle school and high school, as well as kids who are on their way to the elementary school in town. We've actually had, you'll see a couple of students walking past us and talking with us when they're on their way walking to school. And so it's really great to be able to interact with them and to see them get excited to be a part of that action in town. So I would definitely say at first, we got flipped off a few times and got some people doing burnouts past us or whatever it may be. But I'd say the positive reactions outweigh the negative ones for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really great observation about the conversation starters. That's one of my favorite pieces too, that we just really need to somehow start having these conversations. And usually the awkward ones that you're not so excited about having are probably going to be the more important ones. But a demonstration, a role model, showing kids and showing people that we're out here and we care and it means something. And I hold signs here and there for a variety of purposes, and I get the same reactions here and there. Mostly waves and a few fingers, and you're not quite sure how the honks are friendly, but by and large they are. And I really think it's important, and I keep pointing to that that person dressed as the Statue of Liberty waving outside the tax prep people's office. Somebody puts a dollar value on sign holders. It is absolutely important. It helps get the message out, and everybody can do a little something. That's so important. So you mentioned this was started by Maddie Springfield, and she's great. I know her from, I think, New Hampshire Youth Movement is maybe where I met her initially. And she's been she got this cooking, and this is a terrific thing. Part of the thing that got me into this was understanding that this had started with some young folks getting up and doing some stuff, and I really wanted to support you guys and everything you're doing. And so I actually have a clip that we recorded. I'll take us out with a promo from Maddie that we did over the summer. It's going to feel refreshing. I think it's like short sleeves and sunshine and stuff. So I'll take us out there. But I guess maybe before I let you two go, we're going to swap in a minute, bring on some other guests, and then just talk about what's been going on. Maybe starting with Megan, but for both, like, what are the action items? Kind of a quick summary, like somebody's watching right now, like what would you like people to do? Something big, something small. What are our action items for folks watching this?
One of my inspirations is Jane Goodall, and one of her biggest messages, I think, is that every day you have an impact on this planet, and it's up to you whether it's going to be a positive impact or a negative impact. So personally, I've been looking at my own actions each day, because it's definitely, to make serious change, we're going to have to change the systems and completely rethink a way of life. Like I said earlier, climate justice, it's not just climate justice, it's related to so many different things, whether it be social justice and social inequalities and those type of things that you're looking at? Or, for example, like in the global south, you have people, for example, in Africa, who are responsible for 3% of the total emissions, yet they're the most vulnerable right now to the climate crisis. And that's in many regions right now who are experiencing extreme weather events related to climate change and are already experiencing droughts, already experiencing flooding. Just kind of recognizing that social justice and also human rights, the idea of human rights, just like, sorry, getting a little brain fart. Just like recognizing that and knowing realizing how it connects to everything, kind of like broadens your idea of different ways that you can help out with the whole entire the movement and the problem. But
Yeah, indeed, that we are all a part of this. Like we're all a part of the problem, and we are all a part of the solution as well.
and yeah, and so like your smaller individual actions, kind of, if they're in line with your morals and your values, then it kind of makes you want to take more action. For example, like my family, I kind of just started recycling in the house and getting everyone on board with recycling. And at first I thought that was going to be really difficult, but it ended up being pretty simple. So next I want to move to like composting with my whole entire family. And then just like little actions, once you see that they are not using plastic, always having reusable bags when you go to the stores, it helps out because it shows you how you can live more sustainable, and how it's not difficult. And it kind of just like every action leads to another one, I think. And then as far as just reaching out to like politicians and local leaders, as well as, the power of consumption too, like whether you're purchasing from companies that have that that they are more eco-friendly and they're trying to take the planet into consideration in all their actions. That's definitely something that I've been looking into more. Whenever I make any type of purchases, I really try and look into the company's, values and their whole process. And that has played a big role in what I've been purchasing now as well. So definitely a lot of things. And that's where I think it can get overwhelming, but you just kind of got to focus on what you can do and
do what you can. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to take a quick break. I think we're a little short on time. We're going to bring in our other guests. So why don't we'll take a look at Maddie's PSA. That'll take us out of here, and we'll do that and come right back.
So we are here every Friday, and it depends on the week, but if you join our Facebook page, Fridays for Future Jaffrey, New Hampshire, you can see our posts. We post photos, we post when we're going to meet here every week. So come join us every Friday to strike for the climate and make this world a better place for everyone.
And welcome back, everybody. Still Dave Kirkpatrick, and this is still November and Beyond. And we are back here talking with folks from Fridays for Future. There's a climate strike event that happens in Jaffrey in the mornings, 8 in the morning most days. And I've been going out and meeting with these people. We have a lot of fun. So let me bring in a couple more guests and we'll talk to some of the folks who make this happen. And there we go. Welcome, Pat and Margie. And I thought I would shirk my responsibilities as a host a little bit and let you folks introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the climate strike. So maybe Margie, if you go first.
I'm Margie from Jaffrey. I know Maddie and Megan from teaching and coaching and just being in town with them. So that's how I started getting involved. But I'm mainly part of Fridays for Future because I really am worried about the effects of climate change. To me, they're very obvious. There's been great temperature changes, wildfire fires, catastrophic storms, and they're just so much more frequent. Difficulties with agriculture and producing food, and then the disproportionate effect on people who aren't causing climate change, but they're getting much more effect of it. There's so much beauty in this world. I want future generations, my grandchildren, my kids, my students, all to be able to be productive and enjoy it as I have. I really believe that we can reverse many of the effects that we see right now. And even though I fiercely believe that, I think that the window of opportunity is closing, and I'm concerned about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that denying climate change or saying that it's too late is a cop-out. We just have to do it. And the other thing is, I have taught many, many bright and creative students. I really believe in American ingenuity. I think we can figure this out. I think we're smart. I think we're creative. And I think we can figure out a more sustainable future. Maybe we go out without some things, but I think we can do it and still live comfortable lives and have many generations. So that's my hope.
And that's a really great way to put it too, and a great way to think about it and explain it. Honestly, is we can do this. Of course, we can do this. If we're going to talk about American exceptionalism, of course we can do this, and of course we should. And pretending we can't or denying it, it just makes no sense at all. How about you, Pat? Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to the climate strike?
Sure. I'm Pat Martin, and I live in Rindge. I'm a retired electrical engineer and chair of the Rindge Energy Commission since 2009. And I've been very interested in climate and renewable energy, actually, since the first oil embargo back in the 70s when I was a student. So, this is something that I've followed my whole life. But there clearly aren't enough people engaged, enough people being concerned about this. Human beings don't seem to be too good at looking at long-term consequences. We know it from what we do to ourselves in terms of health and everything else. But now, at this moment in time, we need to pull it together. And I started attending the Fridays for Future because I saw an article in the paper and a post on Facebook that Maddie Springfield, I had no idea who she was starting up at Fridays for Future climate strike in Jaffrey. And I had recently lost my husband and was kind of disconnected from everything, including climate work. And I saw that and I said, you know what? I should be doing something. And this is something I can do. I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to be really smart. All I have to do is hold a sign and try to get people's attention. Get them to see that our young people are demanding that we do something before we leave them with a wreck. So I just want to mention, if you're in the Keene area, please go to the website for Clean Energy Team Keene, or I think it may be Keene Clean Energy Team. They have a photo petition going on, asking people to take a picture of themselves with a message, like a small 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with a message about New Hampshire Saves, the weatherization project that the utilities run in the state. All the funding is being threatened by the Public Utilities Commission. So Keene's Clean Energy Team is partnering with several other organizations in the state, including Clean Energy New Hampshire, in a lawsuit. Not that Clean Energy Team is part of the lawsuit, but they're going to support them with the photo petition and with people writing to the Public Utilities Commission. So if you can get involved in that way and call your state legislators, everybody should be calling them and letting them know you're around, and your state senator, and asking them to get the PUC to reverse their decision. It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate, again, the everybody can do something, and please do what you can. And you've asked people to, to make some calls, to show up at places. And these are things that just about anybody can do. And I go back and forth between getting angry about people not doing more, but then, really wanting to see a movement like this not alienate people, and then there are people who are just not going to get it. They're not going to participate. They're not going to give up a little bit of their stuff for the betterment of everybody. We know those folks, and they're out there. And more and more, I come back to the do a little something, please and thanks, anything, but also then don't get in our way. The people saying it can't be done should get out of the way of the people doing it. That is not my quote. But the folks who do drive by to say, "What the heck are you folks doing? Wanting to get a job," or like all this junk that we hear from these people, just don't get in our way. So I'm actually as happy about the guy who, does something tiny, just picks up that one little piece of trash, or gets that one thing that's in a paper package rather than a plastic package. If that's the only way that person can contribute, and it's not even the only way they can contribute, but I appreciate that. I don't want to be mad at that person for not showing up to hold signs. I want to thank them for the little parts that they do. Sure, Pat.
I just wanted to chime in that, I've been on a journey doing the New Hampshire Saves energy audit at my house and getting it weatherized and then installing heat pumps. And the thing is that, most of the time people talk about conserving energy, saving energy as being a sacrifice, but actually, it makes economic sense. I figure from that New Hampshire Saves energy audit that I had done 10 years ago, that I've purchased 2,000 fewer gallons of oil to heat my home since I did that.
Wow, that's
and
great.
Today's dollars, that's $6,500.
Yeah.
In my pocket, that wouldn't have been there without the energy audit and the weatherization. I think there's that people will save money, if they can get that first help up through New Hampshire Saves, if they can be pointed in the right direction and given the tools.
Sure, and
we can do this, and it's going to take all of us.
Yep, but Pat, you also mentioned something really interesting to me a week or two ago about the cost of new energy. Do you remember that conversation? Could you go
right.
that a little bit?
Right. So, the thing is that the energy that you don't use is the most cost-effective energy there is. We were supposed to reduce energy consumption, mostly electricity, by about 2% this year. That's what the utilities were going to do through New Hampshire Saves.
Yeah.
If they don't do that, then they're going to have to come up with 2% more power someplace else, from a new power plant, new pipelines,
it's much more expensive than
rate
energy
payers,
that's already there.
Right. And ratepayers were all going to have to pay for it. So, energy efficiency is the cheapest megawatt that you can possibly produce, much cheaper even than the renewables, which I love and are cheaper in general than the more traditional types of power production now. But everybody should be seeing this as a way to more economic independence.
Absolutely. And we're just about out of time. Very briefly, where should people go? What's going on? How to get people involved with us?
You know what? We'd love to see more people show up Friday mornings at 8:00 at Rite Aid in Jaffrey, right at the intersection of 101 and 119 and 202.
Absolutely. And bring your coffee, dress in layers.
Yeah.
It's a social hour that we've been starved for, quite frankly, during COVID. It's not that bad outdoors and breeze, and we'll wait till the salt trucks start going by, but we'll see how that works out. Well, thank you both for coming on the show. That is all we have time for. And I'll say goodbye right now, but I hope you'll come back again because there's so much more to talk about on this issue.
Yeah.
So thanks for
Thanks,
joining
Dave.
me today. And thank you folks for joining us. And we'll see you next time on November and Beyond.
See you Fridays.
And just like that, I'm back once again talking to no one because I'm going to go delete this later on. But if you are there, hey, well, welcome to my office. And, what a lovely day. I'm just going to play some more stuff because I'm still setting up the other room. I'm going to go to, I think it is Hillsborough Democrats. Talked an awful lot about the rotten, wretched Free Staters in the State House and the things that they're doing and the ways that they work their way in. This was, I think, a fundraiser for the Dems and a little bit of a what's going on, but there's some really great information in here. If you want to listen to local people talk about local news, like really stuff that's really happening and stuff that you can do stuff about, you might want to tune in. And it's going to be no way near as sexy as like Bachelor or any of that crap, so you choose wisely, choose your media. Here you go, and I probably won't say bye at the end.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everybody hear me all right? Okay. Welcome to the Hillsborough County Democratic Committee's 2021 picnic. A little soggier than we had anticipated and a little quieter than we have in past years, simply because we don't have too much going on this year. But I want to thank you all for persevering through COVID and the weather and coming out to support our local candidates. All the proceeds from today's event will be used to fund mostly our county positions, which are the most difficult to try to fund. Just one housekeeping announcement, if anybody hasn't discovered them yet, that the restrooms are on the opposite corner of the building. It looks like most of you have found a way to get fed. If not, just walk up to the window. We've got plenty of food for you. I want you to draw your attention to the penny sale tent. We have numerous offerings from various committees throughout the county that we want you to take home with you. And then there's, I want to mention that we've got representatives from 24 of our 29 towns here today. We've got a full line of speakers. And I think that's all I'm going to go with for now. I'm going to hand things over to, you want to go? No? Oh, okay. Okay, so former State Rep Kermit Williams, and actually on that note, please raise your hand if you are either an incumbent legislator, a past legislator, or if you've run for the state legislature. I know there's a lot more of you than that, but anyways, thank you. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. I know particularly in this past term, this has not been a fun time for you. So we appreciate you and we are here for you. Thank you for being there for us. Okay, so I will hand things over to Kermit. He'll be your announcer for most of the day. If anybody has any questions and you don't know what's going on, just come and see me and I'll divert you to somebody else. Okay, thank you.
So thank you all for coming. We're thrilled by having people from, as Roger said, almost every town in the county. And we're thrilled to have a number of exceptionally good speakers here. So our first speaker, and she's busy buying penny sale tickets, so I don't want to interrupt that, so I'll draw it out here a little bit. because the county committee can use the money. So our first speaker is Melanie Levesque, and Melanie is from Brookline, and she was my colleague in the New Hampshire House of Representatives, and then she represented the 12th district in the state Senate, where she was the first African-American senator ever. See, it only took us 234 years to get some equality. She's now the Director of Outreach for the NHDP. Please give a warm welcome to Melanie.
Thank you, Kermit, and thank you to all the Hillsborough County Democrats. It is wonderful to be with you today. I usually come to the Hillsborough County, I'm going to call it barbecues, and have a wonderful, wonderful time. So I'm really very honored to be here today and to have this new position as the Director of Outreach. Ray Buckley actually called me a couple weeks ago and he said, I've got this crazy idea. And we sat down and we talked to each other and he talked to me about his crazy idea. And I realized that it's what I've been doing for probably the past 20 years plus. And I was very excited to have this opportunity because I believe strongly in bringing people together and in our democratic priorities. So what my role is as the Director of Outreach is to once again bring people together, but also to build our caucuses and our groups, and to be able to communicate our message, not just with messaging, but with social media and sharing ideas. So I'm sure a lot of your groups have some really interesting things that you're doing, and to be able to share those with other caucuses will only make us stronger. And the whole goal of this is to win, not only in 2022, but well beyond, okay? So I'm looking forward to working with all of you, to working with all of your caucuses in building our Democratic group. You know, I just want to acknowledge that the past 4 years have been, well, the past 5 years actually, have been really tough. We are all exhausted from having President Trump to having a year of Republican leadership in New Hampshire. And in all of this time, these past 5 years, we have been assaulted on every front. You know it, I know it. When it comes to voting rights, when it comes to women's rights, when it comes to the environment and energy policy. And I just want to talk about one thing that really touches me, and that is education, because that is where it starts. We as Democrats want to make sure that every child has an opportunity to get a good education. But with these Republican-sponsored, let's see, I had a really good way of putting this, taxpayer-funded savings accounts for charter schools and home schools. This will definitely raise all of our taxes, and people need to know it. So, we have a lot of issues that we're dealing with, but I think the important thing is that we must stand united. There's a lot of forces that are trying to pull us apart, and you've heard of that saying, stronger together. Well, the opposite is weaker when we're divided. And we don't want to be weaker. We want to be stronger, so let's work together. So I just want to say that Chairman Buckley has put together a great team, and I'm excited to be working with them, and they're excited to be working with you. We have Ryan Mahoney, who was our former executive director, and he's going to be focusing on promoting the House and Senate roles. And I said former executive director, he was an interim. We also have Mike Parsons, who's doing hard work on the special elections and getting people elected from every level, not just state rep, but for city council, for mayoral races. We are going to win from the bottom to the top of the ballot. Slate Goodwin, who you've talked to many times on your calls, your chair calls, he is our political director, and he's been doing a fine job. Thank you, Slate. And it gives me really great pleasure to introduce our new executive director, Troy Price. And before you come up here, I just want to say all the great things that he's been doing. He is quite amazing. So, according to Wikipedia, Troy Price is an American political strategist and LGBTQ rights advocate who served as chair of the Iowa Democratic Party from his election in July 2017 until his resignation in February 2020. Price worked in the administration of Iowa Governor Chet Culver and later served as press aide for Tom Vilsack. Price served as Iowa director for Barack Obama, the 2012 presidential campaign, and for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So we know that we have a formidable new executive director, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome Troy Price.
Well, thank you, Senator. I want to first of all say I did not write my own Wikipedia page. I just want to say thank you, Senator. Thank you so much for being a part of the New Hampshire Democratic Party team. I've been on the ground now a couple of weeks, and I can tell you I've been so impressed with Melanie and the great work that she is already doing, getting out across the state, making sure that people know what our party is doing, what our party is fighting for, and what we are going to do to win up and down the ticket in the next year and a half. So as I mentioned, and I also want to thank Roger and everyone here with the Hillsborough County Democrats for having me out today. This is a week ago I was up in Belknap County. Weather was very similar to this. I'm told that there are sunny Sundays in New Hampshire. I'm looking forward to experiencing them. But I just want to say thank you so much for having me today. Thank you so much to all of you for being here, for showing your support for the Democratic Party. You know, I got on the ground 2 weeks ago now, and when I told folks back home that I was coming out to New Hampshire, they're like, why? Why would you do that? And I said, this is a no-brainer, because New Hampshire has the best activists, the best volunteers, the best candidates, and the best elected officials in the country, and I am just honored to be here and to be a part of that work with all of you. So it's great to be with all of you, and I can tell you this. The New Hampshire Democratic Party right now is working hard to make sure that we do what we have to do to win up and down the ticket this fall and next fall. We have started our coordinated campaign earlier than any time in our party's history to make sure that we are building out that grassroots, making sure that we are supporting all of you to make sure that we can win. We believe in year-round organizing, so we are taking that to heart, and we are starting earlier than ever before. We're working hard right now to build out a message that can work across the state, from the town committee level, the county committee level, our candidates and our officials, to make sure that everyone in this state knows exactly what the Democratic Party stands for, and to make sure that Republicans are not defining us. We are working right now to make sure that we are competitive at the municipal level. You know, in the last 4 years, the NHDP's municipal program has helped flip hundreds of seats, leading to historic wins all across our state. And so we are working hard to make sure that happens. We're doing that in Manchester. We're doing that in Nashville. We're going to make sure Joyce Craig gets reelected as mayor of Manchester. And we are doing a lot of other stuff as well. I could sit up here all day, but I'm sure you folks want to hear from some other folks. But I'll tell you this. We are committed to working right alongside, shoulder to shoulder with all of you. We know that the keys to winning in Concord in the legislature, the governor's office, comes through right here in Hillsborough County. We know that winning statewide, to make sure that we get Maggie Hassan reelected, to make sure that we send back our federal delegation blue, that comes through Hillsborough County. So I want you to know that we are committed to working alongside all of you to make sure that happens. These next 14 months are going to be hard. There's a lot of work to do. But if there's one thing that I've seen in just the last 2 weeks, it's that there is no ending to the spirit, to the commitment that New Hampshire Democrats have to winning. And so I look forward to being a part of that. I look forward to working with all of you. I know Chairman Buckley is going to be partnering with you. We look forward to working right alongside all of you to make sure that we have tremendous wins starting this November and continuing right until November of 22. So thank you all so much for having me. Look forward to talking to you more today and look forward to working with you in the months ahead. Thank you.
So I'm sure we'd like to all welcome Troy to New Hampshire. And while I will agree with you, we have a lot of the best of, there's a lot of things we're the best at. We don't have the best weather, unfortunately. However, I can tell you that there will be Sundays in January when you'll see the sun, because it's even colder when it's the clear sky. So our next speaker is Joyce Craig. So Joyce was elected in 2017 as the 48th and first female mayor of Manchester. So it took 48 times to get it right and put a woman in charge. So Mayor Craig has led Manchester through the COVID pandemic and the many other challenges that come with being the largest city in New Hampshire. And she is running for re-election for her third term. Please welcome Joyce to the country part of Hillsborough County.
Thank you, Kermit. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. And as we've talked about, these last 15 months have been extremely difficult with COVID. In the city of Manchester, we were making tremendous progress. But when COVID hit, we really took a step back and said the health of our community is the #1 priority. So that's what we laser focused on. Health of our community, supporting our students, and keeping our businesses open. And thanks to the support of the federal delegation, the city of Manchester received $43 million to be able to help with getting out of COVID. And what we did was we put together a comprehensive, evidence-based plan to utilize those funds, focusing on many of the challenges that we have, not only in the city of Manchester, but throughout our state. We put $3 million toward affordable housing, which is desperately needed in Manchester, throughout the state, throughout our country. We put funds aside. We're partnering with Southern New Hampshire University and with Manchester Community College, specifically for students who graduate from Manchester public schools who want to go to school, want to go to college, but can't afford it. They can now get funding for college and it will be debt-free. We're working with our health department and our police department to ensure that our community is healthy, looking at our corner stores and making sure they have fresh fruits and vegetables, providing grants to improve their facades so we don't have all of these posters publicizing alcohol and cigarettes, which is the last thing that we need. We're putting community health workers into our community, again, as resources for our community so they understand what's available to them. And they're also working directly with our police department, because what we're finding in the city of Manchester right now is that the majority of calls that come into our police department are those check for service calls that they don't necessarily have to go on. And so if we hire someone from a neighborhood who speaks the language of that neighborhood and they can go check the families or the individuals, they have a relationship, we know things will go much better. So I have tremendous gratitude for our delegation, the federal delegation, and what they've done at the local level. And we've talked about 2022 and how important that is. I view the local elections as sort of a test run for that. It's critical that we hold on to these local seats to support the individuals who are running in 2022. We know Maggie's race is going to be extremely difficult. So that we have a Democratic mayor in Manchester, not only to support the city of Manchester, but to support Maggie and the others running is critically important. I want to give a shout out because we also have another local person here running. Olivia Zink is at Open Democracy Action. She's running for mayor in Franklin. It's important that we support her as well. I'll leave you with this. One of the silver linings, and I think there are many if we all take a moment to think about it through COVID, is that every mayor in the state worked together. We got on Zoom calls every 2 weeks, and it was Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. And we talked about the issues that we were all facing, and it was quite shocking that when we started this conversation, all of us said the number one issue that we were facing was homelessness. Whether we were, in Manchester, in Franklin, in Claremont, Nashua, number one was homelessness. So we really got together and we advocated at the state level for them to take a look at their statewide plan to address homelessness that hadn't been updated since 2006. But because of the work that we did together, they put a commission together and they updated that plan, and we shared information on a number of other topics. So when I look back, that's one of the things that I'm so grateful for, the relationships there and the way that we collaborated and moved things forward. So my last comment to you is that as a candidate, I can't do this alone. And so if there's any time that you have to make phone calls or knock doors, anyone that you know in Manchester to spread the word. We have our primary coming up in less than 30 days and general election on November 2nd. And so, I thank you for your attention today, the opportunity to talk with you, and all that you do for Democrats in the state. Have a great day.
Thanks, Joyce, and good luck. So, our next speaker, Andrew Volinsky, was most recently a member of the New Hampshire Executive Council from the 2nd District. But more importantly, he was the lead counsel in the Claremont decision, where the New Hampshire Supreme Court held that our school funding system was unconstitutional. Unfortunately, it's still unconstitutional, and getting more unconstitutional with each new Republican change. So please welcome Andrew to our picnic and encourage him to keep up the fight.
Hey everyone. Thanks. Better if I turn it on? There you go. Hey everyone. Thanks for turning out on this misty day. It's pouring in Concord. Thanks everyone who worked so hard to get this together. We've seen in the organizing for this event and many others the importance of allowing town chairs to participate in New Hampshire Democratic Party politics. So let's get the town chairs the right to vote and make the Democratic Party a little more democratic. So I've been busy making good trouble as best I can lately. I've had the good fortune to represent the folks who were arrested at the State House protesting against this immoral, awful budget. So let's hear it for the protesters, first of all. So this is a budget that has all of our priorities backwards, that elevates issues that should not be in the budget to a place that complicated the entire budget process. So many people have talked about, I'm sure people today will talk about the attack on abortion rights that are in this budget. I'm going to leave that to some others. This budget was Sununu's opportunity to cancel the only tax on rich people in New Hampshire. So let's see how that works. Sununu canceled the interest and dividends tax, which according to the New Hampshire Fiscal Policy Institute saves $8,000 a year for anyone making $1.5 million each year. So everyone who's making $1.5 million, let me see your hands. No. So we are going to get about enough for a Dunk's Extra Light, no sugar, out of the cancellation of the dividends and income tax. We need to talk about how Sununu is pandering to the wealthiest people and ignoring the needs of the state. The other thing that's in this budget that we should be talking about is the Divisive Concepts Law. That is a law designed to do two things, as I see it: protect white supremacy and terrorize teachers. And we can whine and complain about it, but I think the best thing to do in response to the Divisive Concepts Law is to teach against it. And so everywhere I go, I'm talking about the things that our public school teachers probably can't talk about. So 1620 was when the Pilgrims landed, the Mayflower, the whole thing. 1619 was the first documented sale of kidnapped people from Africa into slavery. They were here enslaved before that. 1619 is the first documented documentation for it. So 1619, move forward to 1642, 24 years later, 23 years later, there's all of a sudden a problem of children born of rapes by slave owners raping black enslaved women. And so the great men of the Virginia Assembly got together. What are they going to do about this problem? Well, they could have outlawed rape. They could have said your father was free, so you're free. But the great men of Virginia didn't do that. They said you follow the slave status of your mother, and thereby creating the U.S., what became the U.S., intergenerational slavery. 200 years brings us forward to the Civil War in Dred Scott, where enslaved people were not treated as people, they were treated as property. Plessy versus Ferguson, separate but equal. Following on Kermit's note, I've lost where Kermit went. New Hampshire's school funding system, there he is a take on separate but equal. And it's very unequal, and it doesn't work. And that's why when we have people coming before us to talk about how they're going to work hard on education, they're going to fix things, they're going to get us more money, we need to ask, what are you doing to change the underlying system? Are you going to be yet another politician who takes the pledge not to talk about real sustainable solutions? That's what we need to be asking. I hope you'll join me in both teaching in against the Divisive Concepts Law and asking your political leaders to do the right thing and fight the system that creates two very separate and very unequal school systems in New Hampshire. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks so much, Andrew. So our next speaker is Donna Susie. And since Donna is the first person to speak today who is a sitting member of the New Hampshire legislature, I would like to take a moment for us all to have a moment of silence in solidarity with the misery that they have suffered over the last year. With Chuck Morris as president of the Senate and Sherman Packard as Speaker of the House, kind of, and Chris Sununu lingering in the halls of the State House. So I think, you know, we should really feel sad for those folks, but we should also work really hard to make sure that they don't suffer again after 2022. So Donna was first elected to the Senate in 2012, and in better times, she was the president of the Senate, and she did a great job. And it would be one of my fondest wishes to see you back in that seat. So, Donna, please.
Thank you so much, Kermit. Kermit is an absolute pleasure to work with, and certainly he and I have lived through many battles in the legislature, but I'm so happy to see so many of you here today. How many of you have just gotten involved with the Hillsborough County Dems? Raise your hands. Excellent, yay. A special big thanks to all of you. Really, really pleased to see you here. So as Kermit said, this past year has been a bit challenging. The legislature has done some things that I would say aren't just bad, they're abhorrent. But most importantly, they're things that really do not reflect the values of the people of the state of New Hampshire. Let me just give you a few examples. One, you heard Andrew Valinsky talk about critical race theory. Critical race theory is a gimmick. It's a way for Republicans to promote white supremacists, who are the people that elected Donald Trump, and it's a way for them to placate some of their far-right, conservative and downright racist voters. But the fact of the matter is, what it does is it tries to erase history and tries to keep our teachers in our schools from talking about what history is and how we as a country have evolved. You know, just here today, there are people of color, there are people from different countries, there are people whose origins date back centuries to various places throughout the world. And on the one hand, what the Republicans did was try to erase that and get us to stop talking about it. On the other hand, what we need to do is celebrate it each and every day. Because we know it's our diversity that makes us stronger, that makes us better. Another thing the Republicans did this last time in the budget was to create an education voucher system. Now, why is that terrible? Well, it's terrible because it's using your tax dollars, my tax dollars, to fund private schools. And it's siphoning off children from our public school system. And what that does in turn is mean that our public schools have less money to spend each and every day. And as all of you know, if you have children that are in school now, if your children are grown up and have children of their own, you know that our public schools need resources. And you know that particularly this past year, at no time have we seen our teachers rise to the occasion and serve the public like never before. So instead, we should be rewarding and ensuring that we're fully funding public education. And let me just mention one other issue, because I could stand here for hours and talk about some of the horrible things. But the other horrible thing is what the Republicans did to women's reproductive health and to abortion care. Now, here in the state of New Hampshire, and I'm born and raised, I born in Manchester, grew up here my entire life. Even when New Hampshire was a bright red state, there's one thing I could always rely on, and that's even when Republicans were in control, they were generally pro-choice, because they were generally living up to our motto of live free and die, let people live their lives and make their own decisions and have their own autonomy about bodily decisions. Now, for some reason, that's gotten turned on its head, because whether or not you wear a mask is considered bodily autonomy by the Republicans, and whether or not a woman chooses to make the most personal decision possible, well, that's something they need to get involved with. So what the Republicans did was create a 24-week ban on abortion. Now, why is that so horrible? You know, the Republicans say, oh, this is about late-term abortions and people making decisions, women and families making bad decisions. Actually, it's the opposite. It's about people that families, women, in many instances have tried for years to become pregnant and have finally realized that dream, and because of their own health, because of the health of the fetus, find out that the pregnancy really isn't viable. And this is very late in a term that this is found out. So what the Republicans did was to create a 24-week abortion ban, has no exception for rape, incest, or the health of the fetus, and requires an internal ultrasound to make the determination about the age of the fetus. Absolutely, absolutely abhorrent, absolutely intrusive, absolutely disgusting, and it will be one of the very first things that we repeal when the Democrats take control of the New Hampshire Senate and House next time around. Debbie Downer and tell you all the bad news, because there is bad news, and as I said, I could go on longer. But what I want to leave you with is hope. And there's hope here today because so many of you on a rainy Sunday afternoon are taking your time to be here. There's hope because we have an opportunity to reclaim control of both the House, the Senate, and the governor's office. There's hope because we all know we were handicapped last time around. We weren't able to campaign the way we know we need to. We made the right decision, but what we found out at the end of the last election is there are a lot of people that just didn't know the candidates further down the ballot. And that's because we weren't able to do the door-to-door and to have these types of events where we have the neighborhood conversations and people just get to know who you are. Because what I find a lot of times is when you talk to swing voters, it's not really a hard and fast issue. It's the people that take the time to listen to them and the people that they know in their community and the people that they trust that they will vote for further down the ballot. So I'm convinced that despite redistricting, there is no way the New Hampshire Senate is going to be hard and fast red. It's impossible. We're going to pick up seats. I see my dear friend and colleague, Melanie Levesque, in the back of the room. Melanie's coming back. We need Melanie in the Senate. And we need a lot of people like her to think about running, to come back, and there is no question that if we run campaigns the old school way, the way we're accustomed to, and we do it in a safe and healthy manner, we can take back the Senate and the House. And I am so thankful to see all of you here today. I am so looking forward to coming back. I can't wait to knock on doors here and in Francistown and Peterborough and anywhere that I can be helpful to reclaim the seats that we lost this last time. So there is hope. Let's keep it alive and let's have a great picnic. Thank you all very much.
Thanks so much, Donna. So in keeping with the theme of people who are currently serving in the legislature, I want to bring up Manny Espida. And Manny is currently serving in the New Hampshire House. And well, we talked about how bad Donna had it in the Senate. I think as a former member of the House, I can tell you that the real crazy Republicans are in the House. So Manny is the Northern Regional Director at Run for Something. He's also president of Young Democrats, New Hampshire Young Democrats. But Manny has lots of jobs, but his biggest job, I think, is Republican tormentor. So we know the Republicans are afraid of Manny because all you have to do is read their Facebook posts about him. So encourage Manny to keep that fear growing and welcome him to our picnic. Thank you, Manny.
Hey everyone, it's nice to see you all. So many friendly faces. My name is Manny Espitia. I use pronouns he, his, him, and I am a lot of things. I am the president of New Hampshire Young Dems. I also am, but I am a state representative as well. And you know, looking out, I get the front row seat literally in the Sportsplex to see all these horrible things that are coming out from the Republican legislature. It's been a tough year. And I think, 2020 was a rough year it was a great year for Joe Biden, but it was a rough year for us down here in the state level. We lost elections we could have won, like Senator Susi was saying, because of our inabilities to knock on doors, to talk to our neighbors. We lost races that we could have won that were lost by 7 votes, 17 votes. And so, we are, and now the Republicans are leading as though they have a mandate. Like they've won 100 seats and they're fully in charge, but they are unhinged is what I would say. It is absolutely horrendous to sit there and just watch some of the bills that are coming out, and especially all culminating in the budget, HB2, which included a bill around divisive concepts, included repealing the interest and dividends tax, it included the defunding of our public schools through school vouchers, it included the, what am I missing? Oh, and obviously the abortion ban, and it included a number of other things, also decreased funding in education in general. So it was incredibly disheartening. You saw a lot of Republicans saying, well, there's some bad stuff in there, but there's a lot of good stuff. So, this is morally reprehensible, but I'm not, we're gonna vote for it because there's some good stuff in there. So this year, we're going to be filing a lot of legislation that's going to be much more, taken out of it. So we're going to file a repeal of these divisive concepts, and we're going to see, where do they stand? Do they stand on, trying to make sure that teachers cannot be teaching students history of our country and of our world? Are they going to stand to make sure that, with these terrible people who are calling us, anti-white, which is opposite from the truth? And if anything is isolating for the people who are out there, the people of color, our LGBT members, our friends with disabilities, like all of us, we feel isolated when we look at this horrible legislation coming out. So, we're going to be filing that this year to make sure that, in September in OLS, so we'll make sure that folks, that they get the vote on record, and to make sure to see where these Republicans stand. So with that, we need y'all. I think as the president of New Hampshire Young Dems, one of my key roles is I recruit, I talk to young people, and I tell them we need y'all to run. So, we lost our majorities by a slim margin, but y'all are out there, and y'all know that y'all can win this. So please, please continue the fight on the local level, and please, if anything, make sure you pay attention to your select board races, your school board races, because if anything, that is what the Republicans are targeting now, and they are putting money into it. They are funding these candidates who are coming out and saying, who are anti-mask, who are anti-vaccine, who are anti-trans, who are anti, this critical race theory. So they are basically funding these folks. So we need to stand up and fight against them. We have to make sure we run in these local campaigns. So please, I know 2022 is going to be more important on the federal level, but we need to also, town meeting day is coming up too. So focus on, let's make sure we elect Joyce Craig and all our 2021 candidates, but come February, March, town meeting day, make sure y'all file to run, and then let's make sure we retake the House, the Senate, the Executive Council, and our governorship next year. So thank y'all, and make sure y'all run.
Thanks so much, Manny, and again, my condolences. So our next speaker, Emmett Soldati, was a recent candidate for executive counselor, where he would have been a strong critic of Governor Sununu's actions and especially his appointments. So Emmett is leading the Local First effort, which focuses on supporting grassroots efforts and candidates in New Hampshire. And also as a small businessman in New Hampshire, Emmett has insights into the economic issues of New Hampshire businesses. Please welcome Emmett.
Thank you, Kermit, and thank you to Hillsborough. Before I give some remarks, I just really want to give a special thank you to Roger's leadership. As many of you know, over the last winter, we had an opportunity to start some conversations about how to create some bold, lasting change for our party, which is really about creating lasting change for our state. And though I am from Stratford County, I can proudly say that there was no county like Hillsborough County that was willing to stand up and speak out and have the courage to ask for that change and to continue those ideas and indeed activate people throughout our entire state. So I just wanted to thank Roger, his leadership, and all of the Hillsborough County Democratic Committee for your courage and your leadership. So I'm from Somersworth, New Hampshire. It's the smallest city in the state. You probably, if you have followed any of my activities, hear me talk about that a lot. And you might wonder why a community of 11,000 people is a city and not a town. And as I was driving over here, I was thinking about a story that I recently read from a Dartmouth graduate that wrote a dissertation on Somersworth. Somersworth is a mill town, like many communities in New Hampshire. And we used to be a town. It used to be called Great Falls. And in the 19th century, in the 1800s, the Great Falls Manufacturing Company, a big textile operation, was booming. And my community of Somersworth owes a lot of its success to the industry of the Great Falls Manufacturing Company. But they didn't feel that Somersworth, then Great Falls, was doing enough for the corporation. They wanted more right-of-way access to use the railroad. They wanted to be able to cram more French-Canadian immigrants into small mill house buildings. And the townspeople of Great Falls didn't help. They didn't support those initiatives. And so the executives of the Great Falls Manufacturing Company came up with a brilliant idea. They said, we're going to turn Great Falls into a city. And the reason this was transformative for a corporation is not because cities are defined by their mayors and not because cities are defined by their skyscrapers. Cities are defined by their districts. And so the Great Falls Manufacturing Company, like many manufacturing companies of the 1800s, realized that gerrymandering was the best opportunity to maintain power. And they were successful. They transformed Great Falls into Somersworth. They had 5 districts, and they were able to convince folks within those districts and draw those lines so that people of all 5 were interested in the same outcomes of the Great Falls Manufacturing Company. And although you won't see me wearing a hat that says "Make Somersworth Great Falls Again," it has gotten me thinking a lot about our politics of work. I'm a small business owner. I've spent the last 10 years running a restaurant, and you can imagine I've had an interesting year. But I realized that as I've started my political journey, all of our politics is centered around getting people working and refusing to have a politics of quality of life, and focusing on the vibrancy and the community within all of our spaces in New Hampshire. Because at the heart, what the Great Falls Manufacturing Company did is they divided our community. They divided our voices and didn't help us see that we had similar issues, similar struggles, and similar values. And that's a real epidemic in the state of New Hampshire. We are a state that is plagued by isolation, by people that don't see their neighbors as having shared values. They don't recognize that they have the same interests, the same needs for their families, for their children. And that's exactly what we need to be doing as Democrats, not just fighting the Republicans, but pushing it back against isolation. The reason I have been so adamant about inspiring people to run for local office or join their local planning board is it is not our goal as Democrats just to get in power. It is our goal as Democrats to transform what power can do. And when we transform what power can do, it means that we can show people that there is a better way. People don't often show up at their town hall, their city hall, or the state legislature because they're inspired. They don't show up because they have a good idea. These are typically institutions where enthusiasm and energy go to die. And we have a real opportunity as Democrats of the 21st century to show New Hampshire that there is a new way. We can activate our neighbors and give them a message that resonates and means something to them, their families, and their health. But it means we have to dig in locally and have that message for ourselves. It means that we need to do the work to push back against isolation, to be fostering community in our hometowns, and we need to take seriously the opportunity for our children when we have, as Andrew Valinsky stated, an education system that was designed to not only divide our communities, but disenfranchise so many people of the next generation. And so I hope as Democrats we can pick up the mantle and start working on how we bring people back together. Of course, we have a very serious problem with redistricting and the large districts that we'll see in our state. But even in our home communities, we need to be thinking about how are the politics of work, of just going back to normal, need to change to the politics of quality of life, to bring back vibrancy, bring back connectivity, and bring back community. And that's what I'm going to be fighting for as a Democrat. Thank you.
Thanks, Emmett. So our next speaker is Joel Huberman. And so Joel is here speaking on behalf of Citizens Climate Lobby. Joel has a PhD in biochemistry, so you can be sure he has an academic view of the science of climate change, which happens to be a subject that Louisiana is learning right now. So please welcome Joel to our picnic.
Actually, there are 2 of us. I'm Joel.
And I'm Ann Huberman.
And this is going to be a bit of a change of pace. instead of talking broadly about so many issues that are of concern to Democrats, we're going to talk about one particular issue, climate change. We're both here representing Citizens Climate Lobby,
which is a nonpartisan international organization based in the USA that advocates for carbon pricing as an especially effective way to promote clean energy and eliminate fossil fuels.
and I wonder if you could tell us, what are carbon prices?
Okay, they're fees that are charged to the producers of fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas, based on the amount of greenhouse gas produced by burning that particular fossil fuel.
And why do you think carbon prices are so effective?
The fees get passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. But the higher prices apply only to fossil fuels, not to other forms of energy, cleaner energy, wind, solar, and hydro. So cleaner energy becomes less expensive than fossil energy, and people, individuals, families, and businesses begin switching to the less expensive option.
Indeed, I am a penny pincher myself, and so I would certainly switch if I could get the same product of equal quality for a lower price.
I encourage all of you to come over to the CCL table under the green tent, where you'll see some graphs based on economic modeling by MIT, demonstrating how rapidly people will start switching once a carbon price is imposed.
These graphs will also show you how carbon prices make other policies, such as energy efficiency and electrification, more effective than they would be in the absence of carbon pricing.
Well, what are some other things that can be done with the revenue brought in by carbon prices?
There are lots of possibilities. The option favored by Citizens Climate Lobby is to give all the revenue back to citizens and residents as monthly dividends on an equal per capita basis. Economic studies show that everyone in the lower 2/3 of income in the United States will either break even or get more from the dividends than they might spend in higher prices. And everybody will be able to game the system by switching to cleaner energy.
But what if only the US implements carbon pricing? What good will that do when the US doesn't produce as much greenhouse gas as China?
That's why Citizens Climate Lobby also pushes for a carbon border adjustment, which would put surcharges on imports into the United States from countries that don't have their own carbon price equal to or higher than the American carbon price. Since every other country in the world wants to trade with the United States and no other country wants to pay surcharges to the United States, when they could avoid such surcharges simply by implementing carbon prices of their own, a carbon border adjustment will spread carbon pricing throughout the world.
In other words, carbon pricing in the US, combined with a carbon border adjustment, will have a global effect, just what's needed for solving the global warming problem.
That all sounds good, but what are the chances that our polarized, continually squabbling Congress will pass carbon pricing legislation?
Well, we hope chances are good this year, especially if everyone attending this picnic helps to nudge our members of Congress, our senators and our representatives, to include carbon pricing in the massive budget reconciliation bill that the Democratic members of Congress are currently preparing.
Here we are at a picnic celebrating the Democratic Party of Hillsborough County and, in fact, the Democratic Party throughout New Hampshire. We're all Democrats, and our current senators and representatives are also Democrats. What a perfect opportunity to influence national legislation in a way that will help solve the climate crisis.
Joel and I encourage everyone here to come over to the Citizens Climate Lobby table under its own tent, over in that direction over there, to learn about simple ways you can contact our members of Congress, encouraging them to include carbon pricing in the upcoming budget reconciliation package.
Thanks for listening to us. As soon as you have an opportunity, please come visit us at the Citizens Climate Lobby table. Thanks.
We had high hopes that we could get some or all of our federal representatives to attend. And of course, we all know that things are really busy in Washington right now. And they were all concerned that they wouldn't be able to really give us a confirmation and know for sure that they could be here or not. So as you can see, none of them were here, and maybe that's because they figured they would all get lobbied about climate change, but I think they also are a number of things going on in Washington. However, we do have a video, and there was a time when we saw that as a solution where we could set up a big screen behind me and we could have a projector and play videos from people who weren't able to be here otherwise. But the logistics of that are kind of tough, and so what I'm going to do here is to play the audio of the video from Senator Hassan, who was kind enough to make this for us. And of course, Senator Hassan is running for re-election in 2022, and I know you're all going to vote for her, but I hope you'll also all be willing to work hard to get her elected so that we don't have Senator Sununu. We've had that name before in New Hampshire. We don't want it again. So our next speaker is Steve Marchand, and Steve was mayor of Portsmouth and a recent candidate for governor of New Hampshire. And I can tell you, in my personal opinion, if Steve was governor, New Hampshire would be in a much better place right now. And so now Steve has got a political action committee called Move the Goalposts, which is focused on electing down ballot candidates. So today, he's going to tell us some of the things that we need to do to take back our state. Please welcome Steve.
There you go. All right. Okay, hello. How's everybody doing? Good? Let me just double check. I want to do a little amp check coming back. How is everybody doing today? Good, all right. So I'm going to be honest with you guys, and pardon my French. The last couple of years have sucked. It has been a difficult time for virtually everybody, regardless of your party affiliation. It is difficult sometimes to keep your juice up, to keep your energy up, to keep your motor running. And I think that even now, as we're in the early stages of this next 4-year cycle, and we don't have presidential candidates coming, but this time for a good reason, because we got the presidency, that's a good thing. But it means that in the aftermath of, frankly, some disappointing times down ballot in 2020, this is exactly the time to ask difficult but necessary questions, because this is the time when you can get to work. The time to get to work is not going to be September of 2022. It's right now. In fact, it's yesterday, and the next best time is today. And so here's the thing. If you guys know me, I'm a New Hampshire native. I was born 47 years ago in Manchester. Mel Thompson was my governor when I was born. And here's the thing, I call it Move the Goalpost, the Political Action Committee, because somehow in the almost 50 years since I was born, when Mel Thompson was governor, somehow the goalpost that he and others of his time set have remained largely in the same place almost 50 years later. And the debates that we have, the definition of progress or regression, are remarkably similar to what we might have said in the 1970s. So the job for us is to move the goalposts so that we can define success not relative to what we're used to, but in absolute terms. What is success? What makes us a better state? What makes your community better off? Joe Biden, I love Joe Biden. Joe Biden is one of the most quotable people because he's said so many things. And one of the things that he has said for years and years is that in politics, things are never standing still. They're always moving. If you are in politics, and take it from me, I have experience moving up, I have experience moving down, but they're always moving. Nobody's standing still. And there is a corollary to that in politics, and it's this. If you are not playing offense as a party, you will soon be playing defense. And we've been playing a lot of defense at the state level lately. And this is a little unusual on the surface, because if you look at the top of the ticket, we've been crushing it in terms of results at the presidential level. At the federal level, our congressional seats, we are very fortunate. We've got 2 strong members of Congress representing New Hampshire. We've got 2 strong U.S. senators representing New Hampshire. And we have won the presidential, I believe it's 7 of the last 8 general elections. That is amazing news, and something that when I was a kid in Manchester growing up in the 70s and early 80s, the idea that in New Hampshire, Democrats would much more often than not be winning top-of-the-ticket federal races would have been unimaginable. And that is remarkably good news. It is part of how we contribute to the betterment of the country. At the gubernatorial level, generally, it's been pretty good news too over the last 20 plus years. Last couple, not so much, but over the last 25 years, it's been a lot better than worse in terms of Democrats being in office. So how is it possible that everything I just said to you, that I presume you would agree with, can be true? And yet at the same time, down ballot, we are in a position where the Speaker of the House, Sherman Packard, said after the budget was passed a few months ago that it was the most conservative budget passed in the state of New Hampshire in 50 years. That's what he said. 50 years. You mean like when Mel Thompson got elected governor? That's what we're talking about. And the reason is this: how is this possible? The top can be so good, and down ballot can be so challenging. And this is sort of one of the lessons. If you remember one thing from what I say today, let it be this. If you are not playing offense, you will soon be playing defense. And if there's one thing the New Hampshire, and I would argue National Republican Party do quite well, is when they get an inch, they play offense. It is the reason why Merrick Garland is not a Supreme Court justice. It is the reason why Amy Barrett is a Supreme Court justice. It is relentless offense. And at the state level, I want you to think about this. This legislature, with a narrow majority in the House and Senate, was able to push more over the finish line in their direction, move the goalpost further to the right, to the right, than Bill O'Brien did when he was the Speaker. Now, the big advantage we had was John Lynch was governor and could veto some of the worst things, and we're glad he did. But the reality is that up to this point, Republicans in New Hampshire are generally not paying a big enough price for doing things that are moving goalposts to the right of what Mel Thompson set them at when I was born 47 years ago. If you think about reproductive rights, they're actually pushed. We are now the most anti-choice state in the Northeast U.S. For a state that polling shows is one of the most pro-choice states in America. How do these things happen? How do we now have the first or second most aggressive public funding of private schools, the freedom accounts of any state in America, at a time when we support public education in theory as much as any state in America in the polling? And the reason is because they play offense and worry about it later. So What I'm worried about with my PAC is trying to get down ballot candidates to think about 3 things, and I will do whatever I can in the 18 months to come and the cycles beyond that to help us get there. So here are the 3 quick points I want to send to you today. Number 1 is we need to make sure that people stop thinking of Chris Sununu as the driver of the New Hampshire Republican Party. He is not. He should not be the face of the Republican Party, because the people that he is most afraid of, those are the people that are the face of the Republican Party. Anybody know who Mike Sylvia is? He's a state rep from, I believe, Belmont, up in Belknap County. Anybody see in the last few days what he has said?
Crazy.
Crazy. He has said the problem with an anarchy-styled agenda is that the sheep, you know, people like you and me, he calls the public the sheep, will figure it out if they are too explicit and aggressive in their free state agenda. The majority leader is Jason Osborne. What he is doing better than Bill O'Brien is he is staying quiet publicly. They do the stuff that is changing the nature of the state in a free state project direction. And then they are, by and large, going back in, unlike a guy like O'Brien, who was glad to appear on your TV show or your radio broadcast. His exposure of who he was one of the things that allowed us to flip that thing back in 2012. This group is a little more savvy in that regard. We have to work extra hard in order for people like Jason Osborne and Keith Ammon and Mike Sylvia and Diane Kelly. It's a long list, folks. These are the people. This must be one of our main jobs, is to redefine the Republican Party for what it really is. It's the party of the free state activist. It has been taken over. And Chris Sununu is arguably more afraid of them right now than he is of us. But once people know, he won't be afraid of us as we fuel the knowledge that the free state activists do it. That's number 1. We need to redefine who the Republican Party is. Number 2, we need to grab control of defining what it means to be a Democrat. In my lifetime, the Mel Thompson thing I was talking about earlier, we have defined, people don't vote based on spreadsheets, and nobody loves a spreadsheet more than me. All right? And you need the spreadsheets to know how to implement good public policy. But that's not how people vote. People vote based on feelings. They vote based on value.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everybody hear me?